My name is Gilad, and it's great to be with all of you today. I really appreciate you being here. We're going to begin with our itinerary for this morning. We're going to begin with opening remarks from Mathew Upchurch. Then I'm going to share some thoughts on trends and themes in travel technology. We'll then have our big idea session, the VC and investor panel, and we'll finish with the startup showcase. So our goal for the summit is to bring the startup and innovation ecosystem into Virtuoso Week and to our members and to our partners so we can learn, so we can innovate, and so we can enhance both our own businesses as well as our beloved industry. To that end, we will begin very broadly, and through the morning we'll narrow our focus and conclude with 5 real-world examples of those innovators in the wild. My wife told me to slow down, so I'm going to do my best in slowing down here. That's why I brought her here. While so many technology events are structured like a survey course, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, today we're going to try to go deep and to examine a few themes from multiple directions throughout the morning. But to begin, I'm thrilled to introduce a lifelong innovator and a good friend, Mathew Upchurch.
Thank you, Gilad. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. I'm very excited about this program, and I think maybe what I'll start with is I've always loved technology. Another side of my family was involved in a lot of technology since the time I was a little kid, and but I've always had a North Star around technology because to me there have always been 2 kind of major lobes of technology. That which is out to create efficiencies, which can sometimes be a euphemism for how many human beings can you remove from the process. And then there's that technology that, to me, is built to enhance and amplify the value, the importance of humans. And so about 20 years ago, I coined a phrase. I said, automate the predictable so that you can humanize the exceptional. And by the way, the exceptional isn't just when things go right? It's also when things go wrong. It's very, very hard for technology to say, I'm sorry, and actually somebody feel it. And so I've just always had a passion for the idea of how technology can enhance human connection and amplify all that. A couple of years ago, I also thought, I had an interesting thought. I thought, why do some of the biggest tech companies in the world always talk about dominating, right? Like, we're going to dominate. And something came to me. I said, you know why? Because they can. Because it's actually possible. It is possible to build technologies that own 80% or 70% of the market space. But when you're in that side of the business and that side of the world that actually is based on human connection, it's impossible because that's the limitation, right? If that's where the value exists, it is literally impossible to do that. Therefore, collaboration and how human beings work together and all that type of stuff, amplify that is what's important. I'm really, my friendship with Gilad started a long time ago when we met, and he was working on a project that was basically connecting some of the latest in AI, combining it with actual human interaction. So how do you actually use the best of both worlds of AI, but also of how a human is involved in that process? And so we got very excited about that, but he's also joined our board a number of years ago, and we've become very good friends. He's now doing a lot of speaking and a lot of investing around the world. So I'm very grateful to you, Gilad, for doing this. It actually also builds on something we did a number of years ago, which was our incubator program, which kind of when we started that. And that program was pretty simple. There are billions of dollars in travel technology that are being spent. And it was like a lot of startups and a lot of companies would like totally ignore the agency and advisor, indirect, whatever you want. There's all these different, like, I hate the word middleman, by the way, or intermediary. If I hear the word intermediary one more time, because it's like, if you live in a world where pretty much everything can be booked direct and a consumer chooses to not book direct, how the hell am I the intermediary? I'm the primary, right? And so but it was, the whole idea was, how do we get travel technology companies to actually remember that there are literally billions and billions of dollars still being booked by this so-called intermediary, And in fact, they've only gotten stronger. And so that's, because the number of startups and companies I would see that always started with this great B2C thing, and then when they didn't work because they were competing against one of the big guys, then they would pivot at the last minute and, what about B2B? And then, and then they run out of money and they've never heard from them again. So we wanted to make sure that we brought a spotlight to the ability that if you architect something appropriately, you can actually have a core architecture that can both serve the B2C and the B2B space in very innovative ways, and be able to do that. So the incubator program was very successful. It brought a lot of spotlight on the issue, but at the end of the day, we needed to scale this into something different. And by the way, I remember when we had the head of Google Travel with us in Cape Town a number of years ago, and to be real frank, there were some members who like, what the hell were they doing here? Why would you let, the fox in the chicken coop, right? Kind of a thing. And I'm like, our job as leaders and our job is not to always just bring something that we want to hear. It's also important to understand the broad nature of what's going on. And I think that's very important because it allows you to then make those kind of trade-offs and those decisions you need to make. So this is the 1.0 version of this. I'm very grateful to Gilad and our team and Travis and all of the guests that are here. Thank you. We're filming it because we're going to think there's a lot of really great stuff that comes out of this. And I just want to thank you for being here. I think it's exciting to see what's going on. It's exciting to see that our sector is being paid a lot more attention to. And I think it's going to enable us to kind of make those kind of decisions. You'll hear me today during the opening session. We have a particular vision of the technology strategy at Virtuoso, and you're going to hear, I won't steal all your thunder, Travis, but it basically has to do with the difference between closed and open systems. And we don't believe in monolithic solutions. We think that there's a lot more opportunity, particularly given the immense diversity of our network, globally, sizes, different businesses, et cetera, how to be able to actually create a strategy that allows there to be a multiplicity of particular solutions and how these things can integrate with each other. So that's pretty much it for me. I just want to thank you again for being here. I want to thank Gilad, and it is Virtuoso Travel Week. I'm glad we're filming it because, of course, I have like 3 other things I have to go to. But please enjoy this. I'm going to be here for the next hour, and then enjoy the rest of the time, and then we'll see you later this afternoon at the big show. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. And for those of you who just came in, there's a few seats around, and I'm thrilled to see that all of you are here. So as Mathew said, technology is built in collaborative efforts. And this is really what today is about. The idea that here at Virtuoso, we're not trying to build all of our technology in-house, but one of the things we want to do is to open a platform and to bring all sorts of developers and partners in to work with us. And to those members and suppliers in the room, remember, technology is at the core of every modern business. And due to technology eliminating geographic barriers and other barriers to entry, innovation and the human connection are the only 2 ways to stay relevant in our fast-paced economy. Said simply, effective utilization of technology is an innovation mentality are 2 of the key factors needed for your business to succeed in the future. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. So to begin, for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting, a tiny bit about myself. As you know now, my name is Gilad, and I grew up in Israel. I currently live in Seattle, Washington, and I've been fortunate to be a lifelong traveler. I'm a technologist, I'm a startup investor, I'm a corporate director, including proud member of Virtuoso's board, and I'm a psychology enthusiast, which we're probably not going to touch on today, and I'm a founder and entrepreneur. But I would love to talk about that over drinks at some point. So as you probably all know, 2019 was the high point in both actual travel as well as travel technology investment. And then COVID hit and put a stop to all of that. However, by doing so, it supercharged innovation and startup formation, launching a wave of new startups just months after the pandemic began. Because of this and other factors, as Mathew said, we are currently seeing a dramatic growth in both interest and investment dollars coming into our space. According to Crunchbase, in 2021, we saw 765 travel startups secure funding. As of last month, 280 startups have been funded in 2022, which is roughly 25% behind where we were at this point last year. So not so bad. Top technology investors in the early stage include Thayer Ventures, F Prime, 500 Startups, Y Combinator, TechCrunch, Plug and Play, Excel, and others. And we're grateful to have some of those guys in the room with us today. Based on my own internal statistics from my fund that's called Brook Captial, I saw a huge batch of travel startups initiating fundraising in Q1 of 2021, likely meaning that they were founded in Q3 or Q4 of 2020. In Q1 of this year, I had first meetings with 67 travel startups, roughly 2/3 in the United States, roughly 1/3 abroad. And I only saw a small dip in Q2, and then another big batch of travel startups in Q3. It's important to note that because I mostly see seed stage and pre-seed companies, most of these companies were launched 6 to 12 months before they came to me, before I saw them. One interesting observation is that the early batch for 2022 included more startups focused on advisors and agencies than I've ever seen in my 15 years of doing this space, which is really why this is the right time for us to launch a travel technology summit. So with so much innovation in our space, it was not easy for me to pick just 5 trends and themes I was going to highlight today. So I did my best. I cheated a little bit by combining a couple together, and I still left a few off. They are optimization of everything, financialization of travel, everyone becoming an aggregator and some becoming super apps, influencers becoming curators and tour operators, and advisors becoming influencers and creators, and emerging technologies, Web3 and the Metaverse. Before we jump in, as you can see, there's an asterisk at the bottom of the slide. When I started putting this together earlier this year, one of the trends was going to be the explosion in financing and funding coming into our round. And I still think that's probably true, and I still think that's probably a macro trend worth focusing on, but rather than including it here, I decided to move it to a discussion topic with our VC panel that we'll hear from in about an hour. So to begin, the first theme I want to highlight is probably the least novel of the themes today, but I wanted to highlight it because it's finally arriving into the advisors and agency world in full. The topic of optimization is something that I've been thinking about since the beginning of UTrip in 2011, and is one of those things that technology has always been good at, helping people and businesses do more with less. I still remember my first conversation with Mathew at the W in Seattle back in summer of 2013. And I distinctly remember, and he just shared this with us, Mathew sharing his philosophy on technology and optimization, which he simply called automating the predictable to humanize the exceptional. That really stuck with me. Many years later, when I spent time as the entrepreneur in residence at the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, the world's largest AI research institute, I took that with me. And I had the opportunity to discuss this with executives at Amazon, Microsoft, Brooks Running, Smartsheet, Marriott, et cetera. And the thing that I took away from all that, what I heard loud and clear, is that businesses don't want more data or more analytics. What they want is more action. Most people in business, especially medium and large businesses, have more data than they can possibly handle and know what to do with, and not nearly enough time. And that's why they're not seeking more analytic solutions, but actual solutions to solve the problems, to take actions within their business. I carried this forward with me as I started my fund, and I saw this take shape in our own industry as well. A few examples. Startup like Shiny don't just tell you how your housekeeping team is doing, but they offer real-time nuggets to inform your house cleaning team on how it should be done right and how to do it properly. And Bayou just doesn't give your revenue managers info about pricing, but actually adjust the prices in real time based on market demand automatically. Or Operto, a startup that can act when the need arises to automatically ask your guests to be quiet when the noise sensor is awakened without the need for staff intervention. Plus, of course, their newest competitor, I'm sure most of you heard about, Amazon Go, who just announced a new division focusing on hotels, cruise ships, and airports. In a bit, we're going to hear from Deal Engine, which is another example of automation in our space. All of these examples of automation and optimization go beyond data and go into actual optimization of the operations of your business. That's the difference, and that's the trend. Next, we have financialization of travel. I recently gave a talk at the Foster School of Business in Seattle that I titled The Financialization of Everything. And in that talk, I highlighted how fintech, or financial technology, is finding its way into seemingly every sector of every industry, and needless to say, travel, our beloved industry, is no exception. The power of these financial tools is that when they work properly and are calibrated with sufficient data, they enable the business to increase profitability, while at the same time giving travelers the confidence to book more travel further out. We are fortunate today to have Ethan from Hopper, who will be presenting in about 30 minutes. So to prepare for his talk, let's go over some of the basics. So first, a couple definitions. I find the definition offered by Investopedia to be spot on. The term financial technology, or fintech, is used to describe technology applications that seek to improve and automate the delivery of financial services. Or said another way, fintech is just another way to describe the technology we use to save, invest, and manage our money. Pretty straightforward concept. Next, we have DeFi, or decentralized finance. I don't love many of the publicly available definitions of DeFi because I find they rely too heavily on a specific type of technology, usually the blockchain. So I define DeFi more broadly and in a technology agnostic manner. DeFi is the name of a category of products and services that do not require financial institutions, intermediaries, banks, or brokerages to be able to be utilized. Or said simply, DeFi is a way to organize a financial system around a decentralized philosophy. And finally, we have the term Web3. The technology, and this is a technology-specific term that refers to the future of technology that's rebuilt on the foundation of crypto and blockchain technology. And I'll share a few more thoughts about Web3 in a bit. Now that definitions are out of the way, there are three key trends powering this fintech revolution in our industry. Understanding and utilizing these trends within your own business is one way to achieve success. They are DeFi, financialization of everything, and super apps. Due to our schedule, I won't be able to go into detail about all of these, but I do want to give a couple really quick examples of what they look like in the wild. There are many examples of DeFi companies out there, but the two that impact us the most in our industry are novel payments methods, and we'll soon hear from Selfbook, and the other is the BNPL, buy now, pay later phenomenon that's come into our industry through a crop of innovative startups. Now, BNPL, of course, is not a new idea. It's a modern take on an old idea called layaway. But the thing is, with the data we have now, we can make this both more profitable for the business and a significantly better experience for the consumer than the traditional layaway model allowed. Next is financialization of everything. And of course, Hopper is an example we'll hear from in just a bit. But another example is one of Virtuoso's newest member, Noble. Noble is a member luxury travel club. They curate, recommend, and help travelers book. So why am I highlighting them here? The reason is that their first successful product was a certificate that a traveler could purchase, which appreciated over time and enabled the holder to spend that increased value at a specific property within a specific period of time. I don't know about you, that sounds a lot like a bond to me. The thing to remember is that all of these trends are powered by three technologies and business strategies: the utilization of artificial intelligence and data, aggregation theory, and monopolies at scale. But the key point here to remember is that data is what enables all of this. And you no longer need to have big data in order for your data to be relevant. And remember, the value of fintech and travel is making it possible for you to make more money while encouraging your customers to book more travel further out. The next key trend, the key trend of financials everything, is one of the elements that's bringing about the super app arms race we're witnessing. And trust me when I tell you, every super app wants travel within the gates of their business. To understand this development, we need to understand two key topics: aggregation theory and super apps. Aggregation theory is very hard to put into a slide or even a few slides, and I could easily spend the next 3 hours talking about aggregation theory and only scratch the surface. So let me try to do a really quick job. Aggregation theory is a theory that describes how power dynamics have shifted due to the advent of the World Wide Web and mobile technology. As Ben Thompson, the father of aggregation theory, says, "The best aggregators win by providing the best experience, which earns them the most customers, which attracts the most suppliers and partners, which enhances the user experience in a virtuous cycle." And it's that virtuous cycle, that flywheel that continues to spin, that allows these businesses to achieve such scale and to grow so quickly. As you can see, the basic aggregation theory is simple. Due to the advent of the internet and zero marginal distribution costs, business power no longer comes from controlling supply, but rather comes from controlling demand. Now, it is the digital flywheel I just referenced that successful aggregators construct that spins faster and faster, getting them more and more customers for less. The power of aggregation theory is that when it works successfully, it reduces your cost of customer acquisition over time, as opposed to in almost every other business case where the cost of customer acquisition goes up, aggregators actually see their costs go down. So let's quickly look at the flywheel we have here on the screen. So one of the things that allowed Amazon to be so successful is they've actually built multiple flywheels on top of each other. So if we look at the inner circle first, one of Jeff Bezos' Bezos' key innovation was the concept of the infinite aisle, or understanding that we can now offer selection at scale on the internet. By having greater selection on Amazon.com, that led to a better user experience, because when you went to Amazon.com, you were easily able to find the thing you were looking for. A better consumer experience led to more traffic. More traffic led to more sellers wanting to sell to those users, which led to greater selection, and here again led to a better consumer experience. That's the internal flywheel. At the same time, Amazon was innovating around their technology to develop additional flywheels, additional barriers to entry using technology. So they built things like AWS and other capabilities to lower the cost structure of actually operating their business. And by having a lower cost structure to operate your business, you can now pass some of that low cost structure onto your customers. And of course, low price for books led to even better consumer experiences. And that flywheel, this of course is one example of hundreds, maybe thousands of flywheels that are out there in the wild, but that is what allows these businesses to spin so quickly. Now, Super App is a digital application that provides multiple seemingly unrelated services via a single application. Successful super apps aim to simplify and unify the user experience, almost always including payments and financial transaction processing within it. The best super apps, or said another way, the best super apps effectively become an all-encompassing, self-contained commerce and communication platform that enables many aspects of both personal and commercial life. There have been many attempts to become the super app or the single source of truth for travelers, and those attempts are not slowing down. Likely the most recognizable super app in the world is China's Wechat. And our friend Zach Daikwal, who is one of the leading researchers and analysts on millennials in China, tells us that Wechat is China's operating system, which is a pretty bold thing to say. Now, I'm not going to have the time to go over all the differences between all these different super apps you see here on the screen, but they all have one critical thing in common. That is the combination of communication, commerce, and payments. And obviously, those are three elements that are critical in the travel industry. And that's why the super apps are all coming to want to have travel as a part of their offering. Now, currently, we don't really have any real super apps in the travel space, but that is likely to change, or at least the number of attempts is likely to grow. Now, what we do have, like I said, are attempts. So the best attempt in the United States today is Amazon and Alexa, which is a super app that doesn't touch travel at all, but touches many aspects of both personal and commercial life. Some of you may remember about 10 years ago, there was another attempt where eBay, PayPal, and Decide.com came together in order to try to create a super app that was based around consumer products. There's been lots and lots of rumors out there about Block, formerly Square, coming together with Twitter and Pinterest to create an inspirational top-of-funnel commerce type of super app. And just like Professor Galway predicted, Uber, which now offers rides, wants to sell you flights and hotel rooms, and very soon will start selling you tickets to attractions and events. Their goal is that when you think of leaving the house, you think of Uber. At this point, I'm sure, I don't have a clock, but I'm sure I'm already running over, so I'm going to try to do the last two themes relatively quickly. So we've all seen the rise of the influencer, but this is no longer about Kim Kardashian. The influencer economy has become the creator economy and is much more about authentic connection with your audience than it is about simple promotion. And according to Harvard Business School, and my own experience too, it is those micro-influencers, the ones with thousands or tens of thousands of followers, that are the most effective at driving consumer behavior and decision-making due to the authentic connection they actually have with their customers. But what I think is novel is not the cohort of influencers taking their shirt off at a nice hotel or posting about tips and tricks on social media, but it's those people that are joining the travel industry itself. It's about creators who are leaving that profession to become travel advisors and joining our agencies. It's about theme park enthusiasts going from posting videos on Instagram to launching a tour operator taking you to the most amazing roller coaster experiences. It's about the famous surf photographer who's launching a business taking you surfing and pulling off the best photo shoot of your life. And it's about startups like Dharma that are helping champagne producers, fitness clubs, and all sorts of other businesses to monetize their brand through travel experiences. But it is critical to note that this trend is bi-directional. Over the years, we have seen our own advisors becoming influencers and creators. And in less than an hour, Thatch will share with us, unfortunately via video since that was our one COVID casualty here, but Thatch will share with us this phenomenon and the trend that they're working on helping advisors become creators and become influencers. And the thing is, the most successful advisors and the most successful digital creators have this a lot in common. And the most important thing is a truly authentic connection to their audience, a connection based on passion and on lifestyle. This is something we should all think about utilizing within our own businesses. And we at Virtuoso are working to collect primary data to validate that same conclusion from Harvard Business School within our own network. Lastly, as we all know, there are two emerging fields of technology that most people in the world are engaged in thinking through. Some love it, some hate it, Web3 and the Metaverse. As we saw before, Web3's most common definition refers to a future state of technology where the web is rebuilt on a foundation of crypto and blockchain. I find that my personal favorite definition is the most optimistic version of this definition. Web3 is a new way to build networks where the network is managed and owned by the community as opposed to by a single entity. On the other side, the term metaverse first appeared in the 1990s in a now famous book called Snow Crash, and any of you who've read it know that this was not an optimistic depiction of the future. But the common definition that I like is the metaverse is a virtual reality space in which users can interact with computer-generated environments and other users, or simply said, the metaverse is just a 3D web. I'm sure, like me, many of you have seen lots of Web3 and metaverse ideas in our industry. Ideas I've seen include lots of Web3 GDS applications, NFTs as hotel reservations or trip keepsakes, blockchain loyalty programs, Web3 OTAs, as well as companies like D-Travel, a startup that's taking the middleman out of the vacation rental transaction. So basically think Airbnb network without Airbnb, the company. And even a company like DAOBnB, which is a Web3-based vacation rental ownership and members club, where the people who invest own those vacation rental properties, can generate the income, and of course can use them as members. On the metaverse side, we've seen an endless number of VR applications to show off your hotel room or your cruise ship, companies like Pintada, or similar startups working to help travelers imagine themselves walking down the Spanish Steps or enjoying a Grecian sunset. Startup like Historia that will take you on a VR tour when you can't go yourself. As you can probably tell, I'm a tech optimist. So I believe that there is room and value for both of these technologies within our industry. But before you begin to engage or invest or build this out yourself, I think there are a few questions you have to ask. Questions like, why a blockchain? Does the marginal value created by the utilization of a blockchain outweigh the cost and effort required to build, maintain, and operate that database? And if the underlying business itself is not truly decentralized, think a loyalty program within a hotel chain, then is there any real value to the consumer by using a blockchain? Why use an NFT? If all the customer wants is a pretty picture or a concert ticket, why make them manage a digital wallet? Or on the metaverse and VR side, what proportion of our customers are actually going to use this feature? And will that change conversion rates? And if so, for whom? There's plenty of debate on whether Web3 and the metaverse in travel are just branding events and PR opportunities, or if it's a real thing. When making a decision, ask yourself, how is my customer experience enhanced by using these technologies? Is that enhancement desirable? And what percentage of my customers will actually utilize it? Now, to conclude, I have 3 points I want to share with you, and these are points I really would shout from the rooftops across any rooftop that would have me. The first is search is broken. People don't want features, people want outcomes. Remember, no one wants a 1/4-inch drill bit. What they want is a 1/4-inch hole. Thus, instead of asking how many square feet you want in your home or your hotel room, we should be asking our customers, what is the lifestyle you want in your home? A place to party, a gourmet experience, a spa-like escape? Allow your customers to search and interact with you on the level they care about most. Focus on helping the customers achieve their desired experience and lifestyle. Don't just sell your features. Next is no one wants more social networks, but social dynamics make life more fun and interesting. Think about those elements that make certain products really fun and engaging and lead to a network effect. And try to adopt those exact experiences in your own business. You don't need to be a social media platform for your business to benefit from social dynamics. And the third, this is a very old piece of advice, but for some reason in our industry we still struggle. Build a single source of truth. Place all of your data in one place where it can commingle together. This is what all of your personalization and all of your optimization is ultimately going to come through. So remember these themes as we continue this morning, because hopefully we'll see them again in a little bit here, and take them with you as you go through the rest of the week here in Vegas. Think about how your own business, large or small, can leverage these trends to increase profitability, to drive efficiency, to elevate your offering, it's all so we can maximize the human connection. And remember, the most important thing, never stop testing, learning, or innovating. Thank you, guys. And if there's one or two quick questions, we'll do them, but I really want to highlight our speakers, so unless there's any burning questions, we're going to move straight on. But I would be happy to answer if there's one or two. Zach?
Can you say more about developing a single source of truth and what
Yeah.
that means for the industry?
That's a good question. It's actually a difficult one, too, as we think about privacy as well. But ultimately, one of the things that I bet many of your businesses experience is a whole bunch of different systems and databases where your customer data is stored. There might be a transaction database, it might be separate from a CRM, it might be separate from an email marketing or other type of marketing tool. And because of that, you're really weakening your ability to use that data effectively by putting it in silos. There are many tools out there that allow you to put all that data into a data lake, into a single place where the data can commingle, and then you can run queries or run products on top of that that are going to allow you to have much more personalized and optimized experience than by doing any one of those things alone. Obviously, there's a lot of privacy concerns and security concerns, so you have to work with the right partners to make sure you do that, but that's a really important piece for anyone who wants to run a personalization campaign or to think about automation in a serious way.